Overview of Babylon. Babylon, once a powerful city-state in the heart of ancient Mesopotamia, is considered one of the most influential civilizations in world history. Located between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, in modern-day Iraq, Babylon rose from humble beginnings around 2000 BCE to become a symbol of cultural, economic, and political power. Its influence stretched far beyond the borders of its time, affecting generations of civilizations that followed. Often associated with the Bible, where it represents both a city of splendor and a symbol of decline, Babylon's story is one of incredible achievements and catastrophic downfall. Its legacy still reverberates today, shaping various aspects of law, science, art, and architecture. Babylon wasn't just a city, it was a cultural and intellectual powerhouse, offering the world monumental advancements that laid the groundwork for the development of later civilizations. As one of the largest cities in the ancient world, Babylon's grandeur and its eventual collapse are fascinating subjects, illustrating the transient nature of even the mightiest empires. Babylon's impact on world history. Babylon's contributions to world history are immeasurable, touching almost every aspect of human civilization. Perhaps one of its most lasting contributions is in the field of law. The Code of Hammurabi, a legal text dating back to around 1754 BCE, stands as one of the earliest and most complete written legal codes known to mankind. These laws, etched onto a stone stele, laid down principles of justice that, though ancient, have influenced modern legal systems. They also served as an early example of the concept of social justice, with laws designed to ensure fair treatment for people of all classes, including merchants, slaves, and free citizens. In the realm of science and mathematics, Babylonian astronomers made pioneering advances in tracking celestial bodies, predicting eclipses, and understanding the movement of the planets. They created some of the earliest known star catalogs and helped lay the foundations for later astronomical studies. Their base 60-number system, known as sexagesimal, is still in use today in the measurement of time and angles, proving that Babylon's intellectual legacy has stood the test of time. In literature, Babylon gave the world one of its most iconic stories, the Epic of Gilgamesh. This ancient poem, written in Akkadian, tells the story of a king's journey to find immortality and remains one of the oldest pieces of literature ever discovered. It offers profound reflections on life, death, and the human condition, themes that still resonate with readers today. Babylon's influence extended to architecture and art as well. The city was home to some of the most impressive engineering feats of the ancient world, including the construction of towering ziggurats and palaces. Its most famous monument, the Ishtar Gate, adorned with vibrant blue tiles and images of dragons and bulls, symbolized the city's wealth and creativity. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, are said to have been an architectural marvel, though their existence is still debated by historians. Purpose of the video. The purpose of this video is to take you on a journey through the history of Babylon, from its humble beginnings to its rise as a dominant empire, and ultimately to its fall. We will explore what made Babylon great and what led to its eventual collapse, examining key moments and influential figures along the way. By understanding the greatness and decline of Babylon, we can gain valuable insights into the nature of empires, the complexities of governance, and the cyclical rise and fall of civilizations. At its peak, Babylon was more than just a city. It was the cultural and political heart of a vast empire, influencing everything from law to science, from the arts to religion. Yet, like many great civilizations, it could not escape the forces of time, war, and internal strife that eventually led to its downfall. The story of Babylon is not just about one city or one empire. It's a cautionary tale about the fragility of human greatness, the complexities of maintaining power, and the long-lasting impacts that even the fall of an empire can have on the world. As we delve into the detailed history of Babylon, we will examine the achievements that allowed the civilization to flourish and the factors that contributed to its decline. Through this exploration, we'll also consider how Babylon's legacy continues to influence the world today, from the legal systems we follow to the architectural wonders we still marvel at. Geographical and cultural significance of Babylon. Location. Babylon's geographical location played a crucial role in its rise to prominence. Situated in the heart of Mesopotamia, between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, Babylon enjoyed a unique and advantageous position that allowed it to thrive in a number of ways. These two rivers, often referred to as the cradle of civilization, provided fertile soil, essential for agriculture, and allowed for the development of irrigation systems that helped sustain a growing population. The rivers also made Babylon an important hub for trade, connecting it to distant regions and cultures. The Euphrates River, which flowed through the city, served as a major route for merchants traveling across Mesopotamia, bringing with them goods from as far as Anatolia, the Levant, and Persia. Trade routes also led south into the Arabian Peninsula and to the north, connecting Babylon to the great cities of Assyria and beyond. This strategic location helped Babylon flourish as a trading center where goods like grains, textiles, and metals were exchanged. The fertile land between these rivers supported abundant agriculture, and Babylon's ability to harness this resource through sophisticated irrigation techniques gave it a stable economic base. The surplus food produced by its farms allowed the population to grow, which in turn fueled the development of a powerful city-state. Furthermore, Babylon's proximity to other Mesopotamian civilizations, like Sumer and Akkad, made it a melting pot of cultures, ideas, and innovations which contributed to its cultural richness. Because of its prime location, Babylon became a natural nexus for trade, politics, and culture in the ancient world. With goods and ideas constantly flowing through its streets, Babylon became a symbol of both commercial and intellectual prosperity. Cultural legacy. Babylon's cultural legacy is immense, shaping not only its immediate neighbors but also civilizations that came long after. The city became a beacon of knowledge, attracting scholars, artists, and traders from all over the ancient world. Babylon was not just a political center, but a cultural and intellectual hub where groundbreaking developments in various fields took place. One of the most significant cultural achievements of Babylon was its contributions to the field of astronomy. Babylonian astronomers were among the first to systematically study the stars and planets. They developed detailed star catalogs and made significant advancements in celestial observation. Their understanding of the cycles of the moon and the planets allowed them to predict eclipses and other astronomical events with surprising accuracy. The Babylonians' use of the sexagesimal, base 60 number system, which is still used today to measure time and angles, was a key aspect of their astronomical studies. This system allowed them to make precise calculations, a skill that later influenced Greek and Roman astronomers and laid the groundwork for future scientific endeavors. In literature, Babylon produced one of the world's earliest masterpieces, the Epic of Gilgamesh. This ancient poem, composed in Akkadian, is considered the first great work of literary fiction and tells the story of Gilgamesh, a king who embarks on a quest for immortality. The themes of friendship, mortality, and the quest for meaning in life resonate just as deeply today as they did when the epic was written thousands of years ago. This work has had a lasting impact on literature, inspiring countless authors and playwrights across history. The Babylonians were also pioneers in mathematics. They created a highly advanced system of arithmetic, which they used in trade, architecture, and astronomy. Their mathematical methods, particularly their use of the base 60 system, provided the foundation for later advances in geometry and calculus. Babylonian scholars also developed methods for solving quadratic equations and understanding geometric shapes, influencing later mathematicians in Greece, Rome, and even the Islamic Golden Age. In art and architecture, Babylon was equally groundbreaking. The city was known for its grand structures, including the imposing ziggurats, towering temple complexes, and palaces. One of the most famous architectural wonders of Babylon is the Ishtar Gate, an enormous gateway decorated with images of dragons and bulls, symbols of the gods. Made from glazed brick and adorned with vibrant blue tiles, it is a testament to the artistic and engineering prowess of the Babylonians. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon, another one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, showcased the city's mastery of engineering and horticulture, though some historians debate whether they truly existed as described. Babylon's influence reached far beyond its borders. The city was a melting pot of ideas and cultures, and as such, it played a key role in transmitting knowledge from one civilization to another. Whether through trade, conquest, or cultural exchange, the influence of Babylonian culture can be seen in the art, literature, and science of civilizations like the Persians, Greeks, and Romans. Daily life and social structure. The daily life in Babylon was shaped by the city's complex social structure, which was hierarchical but also allowed for some mobility. At the top of this social pyramid were the kings and the royal family, who wielded absolute power. The king, often seen as a divine representative on earth, was the political and religious leader of the city. Beneath the royal family were high-ranking priests and officials who helped govern Babylon's vast empire, ensuring that both religious rites and day-to-day governance ran smoothly. The religious class played a critical role in Babylonian society. Temples dedicated to the gods were not only places of worship but also centers of education, administration, and commerce. The Babylonians believed that their kings ruled with the consent of the gods, and their success or failure was seen as a reflection of divine will. Priests, therefore, held significant influence over the state and society. They performed rituals, advised the king, and helped interpret omens and signs from the gods, ensuring the prosperity of Babylon. Beneath the elite, there was a growing merchant class. Babylon's booming trade, due to its strategic location along important trade routes, created a vibrant economy that supported merchants, craftsmen, and traders. The merchants played a key role in the economic life of the city, acquiring goods from across Mesopotamia and beyond and facilitating the exchange of resources and ideas. Craftspersons and artisans, skilled in working with metal, stone, and clay, produced goods that were highly valued both locally and internationally. Babylon was also a center for the manufacture of luxury items like textiles, jewelry, and pottery, which were traded throughout the ancient world. Farmers made up the backbone of Babylon's economy. They worked the fertile land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, growing grains such as barley, wheat, and millet. The Babylonians were also skilled in irrigation techniques, which allowed them to harness the river's waters to grow crops even during drier months. Agriculture supported not only the city's population but also the trade that made Babylon wealthy. In addition to food crops, the Babylonians grew flax for textiles and raised livestock like cattle, sheep, and goats. At the bottom of the social ladder were slaves and laborers. Slaves in Babylon were typically prisoners of war, debtors, or people born into servitude. While their lives were harsh, slavery was a common practice in many ancient civilizations. Slaves worked in households, temples, and on agricultural estates, while some were used for large-scale construction projects, such as building the ziggurats or palaces of the city. Despite the rigid social hierarchy, Babylonian society was not entirely static. There was some level of social mobility, especially for skilled workers and successful merchants. A talented craftsman could potentially earn enough to join the ranks of the middle class, while wealthy merchants could acquire land and gain influence. Furthermore, Babylon's culture of learning and innovation encouraged the sharing of ideas and skills, which helped sustain its intellectual and cultural vibrancy. In summary, Babylon's geographical advantages, cultural achievements, and social structure helped shape a thriving and prosperous society. Its position between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers enabled it to become a center of agriculture and trade, while its cultural influence spread far beyond its borders. The daily life of Babylonians, while hierarchical, also allowed for economic growth and intellectual exchange, which contributed to the civilization's lasting legacy. Early Babylon, from city-state to empire, foundation and early development. The story of Babylon begins in the early 2nd millennium BCE, around 2000 BCE, when the city was founded in the heart of Mesopotamia. At this time, the region was home to a collection of city-states, each with its own rulers and traditions, but all bound together by the fertile lands between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Babylon was initially a modest settlement, likely founded by the Amorites, a Semitic-speaking people who migrated from the west. In its early years, Babylon was one of many cities that dotted the landscape of Mesopotamia. It didn't yet possess the grandeur or political power that would come to define it in later centuries. Instead, it was just another small city-state, reliant on agriculture, trade, and the patronage of its local gods. Despite its unremarkable beginnings, Babylon was uniquely positioned in a region that had long been a cradle for innovation and civilization. Its proximity to other important Mesopotamian cities, such as Ur and Nippur, meant that Babylon was often influenced by the cultural and intellectual currents of these older, well-established cities. Early Babylonian society, like its neighbors, was shaped by the political and religious structures of the time. Babylon was ruled by local kings or lugal, a title meaning great man, who governed through a combination of military power, alliances, and religious authority. These rulers, however, did not yet hold the overwhelming influence that would come in later centuries. One of the most notable early developments for Babylon was its strategic location on trade routes that connected it to other parts of Mesopotamia and beyond. Babylon's importance as a trading hub began to grow, particularly as the region saw an increase in agricultural output and it started to attract merchants, craftsmen, and scholars. However, the city's rise would truly begin in the 19th century BCE with the reign of its most famous early ruler, the king of the First Babylonian dynasty. Rise of Babylonian power. Babylon's transformation from a modest city-state into a powerful kingdom began under the rule of King Sumobum, who ascended the throne around 1894 BC. Although Sumobum is not as famous as some later rulers, his reign marked an important turning point. Under his leadership, Babylon became more organized, with a system of governance that would lay the foundations for future dynastic rule. It was Sumobum's son, Sumuwilu, who took the next major step in securing Babylon's future. His reign saw the first expansion of Babylonian territory as he began to secure control over neighboring regions. While the city-state was still relatively small, it began to show signs of the strength and ambition that would later define the Neo-Babylonian Empire centuries later. However, it was under the reign of Hammurabi, the sixth king of the First Babylonian dynasty, circa 1792 to 1750 BCE, that Babylon's rise to prominence truly accelerated. Hammurabi's military conquests and political strategy transformed the city-state into an empire. He expanded Babylon's borders, conquering neighboring territories such as the Sumerian cities of Ur, Larsa, and Eshnunna, and he eventually brought all of Mesopotamia under his control. By uniting a large and diverse region, Hammurabi laid the foundation for Babylon's political and economic dominance in the ancient world. Hammurabi's power was not only military but also diplomatic. Through alliances, marriage, and strategic negotiations, he strengthened his position among other Mesopotamian rulers. His ability to balance diplomacy and force was key to his success, enabling Babylon to dominate a wide range of neighboring cultures and peoples. His rule marked a period of relative peace and prosperity in the region, with Babylon emerging as the undisputed capital of an empire that stretched from the Persian Gulf in the south to the Zagros Mountains in the north. The kingdom's wealth during this period grew immensely, fueled by the profits from trade, agriculture, and the conquest of rich lands. The centralized administration of the kingdom allowed for the effective management of resources and the collection of tribute from the conquered territories. This prosperity supported significant cultural achievements, including advancements in law, science, and the arts, and set the stage for the next phase in Babylon's history. Laws and governance. One of the most enduring legacies of early Babylon is its legal system, which was developed and codified during the reign of Hammurabi. As Babylon's political power expanded, the need for a uniform legal code became apparent. Hammurabi's code, the most famous legal code from this period, is one of the earliest and most complete sets of laws in history. Inscribed on a stone stele, it consisted of 282 laws that governed various aspects of Babylonian society, from commercial transactions to family relations, criminal justice, and religious practices. The laws were structured to ensure fairness and justice across the kingdom, and they were publicly displayed, allowing all citizens, both high and low, to see and understand their rights and responsibilities. The famous opening of the code emphasizes that Hammurabi received these laws directly from Shamash, the Babylonian sun god and god of justice. This divine sanction gave the laws an aura of legitimacy, reinforcing Hammurabi's role as a ruler who governed with the authority of the gods. The Code of Hammurabi is perhaps best known for its principle of an eye for an eye, which provided a system of retributive justice. Punishments were often harsh and aimed to mirror the crime committed, although there were also provisions for compensation and restitution, especially for property-related offenses. The code provided a structure for resolving disputes over property, debts, inheritance, and family matters, while also addressing concerns of labor and trade. It covered a wide array of offenses, ranging from theft to bribery, and was designed to maintain order and harmony in a rapidly expanding empire. While Hammurabi's code is the most famous, it was not the first set of laws to be developed in Babylon. Earlier legal codes had already laid the groundwork for Hammurabi's reforms. The Code of Ur-Nammu, which dates back to around 2100 BCE and predates Hammurabi's code, is another significant early legal document. Written by Ur-Nammu, the king of Ur, the code is considered one of the oldest surviving legal texts. It is much shorter than Hammurabi's code and is focused on issues such as compensation for crimes, like fines for bodily harm or property theft. The influence of earlier laws like the Code of Ur-Nammu can be seen in Hammurabi's own code, which expanded and refined many of these earlier principles. While Ur-Nammu's code was more focused on establishing a system of fines and restitution, Hammurabi's code was more comprehensive and dealt with a wider range of issues, including family law, trade, and criminal punishment. In terms of governance, Babylon's rulers also made significant strides in creating a centralized bureaucratic system. Under Hammurabi, the administration was highly organized, with officials and scribes managing the day-to-day affairs of the kingdom, including taxation, trade, and public works. This organization helped ensure that Babylon remained stable, prosperous, and capable of supporting its growing empire. In summary, the early development of Babylon from a modest city-state to a powerful empire was driven by a combination of military conquest, strategic diplomacy, and the establishment of a sophisticated legal system. The reign of Hammurabi marked the height of this transformation, as the city became a center of political, cultural, and legal authority. The Code of Hammurabi not only provided a model for future legal systems but also solidified the king's authority and the stability of the empire. Babylon's ability to manage its vast territory through laws and governance played a critical role in its rise to prominence and its lasting legacy in world history. The reign of Hammurabi, the Golden Age of Babylon. Hammurabi's rise to power. Hammurabi, one of the most well-known kings in Babylonian history, ascended to the throne in 1792 BC. His reign would go on to define the Golden Age of Babylon, laying the foundations for its lasting influence in the ancient world. Born into the first Babylonian dynasty, Hammurabi inherited a relatively small and strategically located kingdom. However, through a combination of military prowess, diplomatic acumen, and strategic alliances, he transformed Babylon into the most dominant power in Mesopotamia. When Hammurabi began his rule, Babylon was still in the process of consolidating power. The region was fragmented into various independent city-states, and there were constant power struggles among competing rulers. Babylon, though influential, did not yet control the vast territories that it would come to dominate under Hammurabi's leadership. However, the king's military genius and ability to form alliances set him apart from his contemporaries. Hammurabi's rise to power was marked by a series of aggressive military campaigns designed not only to expand his kingdom but to secure its borders. In his early years as king, he faced competition from the neighboring city-states of Larsa and Eshnunna, among others. With military skill and a strategic approach, Hammurabi defeated the rulers of Larsa and Eshnunna, incorporating them into his expanding empire. These early victories helped establish Hammurabi as a formidable military leader, one who could unite disparate territories under his rule. However, Hammurabi was not only a conqueror. He understood the importance of diplomacy and alliances in maintaining stability within his growing empire. He forged alliances with powerful neighbors like the Kingdom of Elam, solidifying his position through marriage and mutual defense agreements. His ability to balance military aggression with diplomacy allowed him to expand Babylon's influence without exhausting its resources. Hammurabi's military campaigns and diplomatic maneuvers ultimately led to the unification of Mesopotamia under Babylonian rule. By the end of his reign, Babylon had emerged as the undisputed superpower of the region, stretching its borders from the Persian Gulf in the south to the Zagros Mountains in the north. The empire's expansion not only solidified Hammurabi's legacy as a military leader but also laid the groundwork for the city's economic, cultural, and political flourishing. The Code of Hammurabi. One of the most remarkable achievements of Hammurabi's reign was the creation of the Code of Hammurabi, one of the earliest and most complete written legal systems in history. Inscribed on a towering stone stele, the code contained 282 laws that covered a wide range of topics, from commercial transactions to family disputes, criminal behavior, and property rights. The laws were designed to regulate the behavior of Babylonian citizens and maintain order across the empire. The Code of Hammurabi was groundbreaking for its time for several reasons. First, it was one of the earliest examples of a legal code that was publicly displayed. The stele containing the laws was erected in a public place, allowing all Babylonians, from the highest to the lowest classes, to read and understand the laws that govern them. This was an important step in creating a sense of accountability, as people could no longer claim ignorance of the laws they were expected to follow. One of the most well-known aspects of the Code of Hammurabi is its principle of lex talionis, or an eye for an eye. This principle established a system of justice in which the punishment for a crime was often equivalent to the harm done. While the code did call for harsh punishments in certain cases, especially for crimes like theft or murder, it also provided for varying degrees of punishment depending on the social status of the perpetrator and the victim. For example, a free man who committed a crime would be punished more severely than a slave who committed the same offense. While the principle of an eye for an eye is perhaps the most famous, the code also provided guidelines for trade, commerce, and property disputes. The Babylonians were sophisticated merchants, and the code regulated business transactions, including the payment of debts, the use of interest, and the sale of goods. It also set standards for the quality of goods, such as building materials and agricultural products. The Code of Hammurabi helped ensure that trade and commerce were conducted fairly, which contributed to the economic prosperity of Babylon. The significance of the Code of Hammurabi extends far beyond its historical context. It provided the foundation for later legal systems in the ancient world, including those of Greece and Rome. The concept of written laws that could be publicly accessed and understood by all citizens would become a central feature of legal systems throughout history. Hammurabi's code is also seen as an important influence on the development of the concept of justice in the Western legal tradition, impacting the development of both civil law and criminal law. Economic and cultural flourishing. Under Hammurabi's rule, Babylon's economy flourished. The expansion of territory brought with it access to new resources, including fertile land for agriculture, precious metals, and trade routes. Hammurabi was keenly aware of the economic potential of his empire, and he implemented policies that fostered agricultural productivity, trade, and technological innovation. The fertile lands between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers were ideal for agriculture, and under Hammurabi, Babylon became a major center of agricultural production. The empire produced a wide range of crops, including barley, wheat, and dates, which formed the backbone of its economy. The abundance of agricultural products allowed Babylon to sustain a large population, which, in turn, supported its growing cities and urbanization. Hammurabi also understood the importance of trade in maintaining Babylon's prosperity. The empire's location in the heart of Mesopotamia made it a crossroads for trade routes that connected it to distant regions, such as Anatolia, Persia, and the Indus Valley. Babylon became a major trading hub, exporting agricultural products, textiles, and luxury goods like jewelry, and importing raw materials such as timber, stones, and metals. The wealth generated from trade helped fund the king's ambitious building projects, as well as the construction of monumental temples and palaces. Technological advances also played a role in Babylon's economic success. During Hammurabi's reign, there were significant developments in areas such as irrigation, metalworking, and pottery. The Babylonians improved their irrigation techniques, allowing them to harness the waters of the Tigris and Euphrates to grow crops more efficiently. Advances in metalworking, including the production of bronze and iron tools, allowed for the construction of larger and more complex structures. These technological innovations helped ensure that Babylon could maintain its position as an economic powerhouse in the ancient world. Culturally, the Golden Age of Babylon saw a flourishing of arts, literature, and education. Hammurabi was not only a military and political leader, but also a patron of the arts and sciences. Under his rule, Babylon became a center of learning, with scholars making advancements in mathematics, astronomy, and medicine. The Babylonians were particularly skilled in mathematics, using a base 60 system that allowed them to make accurate calculations for both everyday purposes and astronomical observations. One of the most enduring cultural achievements of Hammurabi's reign was the development of Babylonian literature. During this period, the Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the oldest known works of literature, was written down in its surviving form. The epic tells the story of the Sumerian king Gilgamesh and his quest for immortality, and it reflects the spiritual and philosophical concerns of the time. The Babylonians also made significant contributions to poetry and the written word, ensuring that Babylon's literary tradition would influence cultures for centuries to come. Religion and power. Religion played a central role in Hammurabi's rule. As was typical in ancient Mesopotamian societies, the king was seen as divinely chosen to rule, and Hammurabi used religious symbolism to legitimize his power. He claimed that the laws he enacted were given to him by Shamash, the god of justice, who instructed him to govern the people in a fair and just manner. Hammurabi's close relationship with the gods was central to his identity as a ruler. In the opening inscription of the Code of Hammurabi, the king states that the laws were handed down to him directly by Shamash, and he often portrays himself as an agent of divine will. This religious justification for his rule was an effective way to unite the people under his authority, as it reinforced the idea that Hammurabi's power was sanctioned by the gods themselves. Hammurabi also used religious institutions to strengthen his political control. The king worked closely with the priesthood, ensuring that temples and religious centers remained loyal to his rule. The construction of grand temples and ziggurats was an expression of the king's piety and his desire to honor the gods. The king's relationship with the priesthood also allowed him to control religious festivals and rituals, further consolidating his power and ensuring that his rule was seen as divinely ordained. In this way, Hammurabi's use of religion was not only a means of legitimizing his rule but also a tool for uniting the diverse peoples of his empire under a common spiritual and political framework. The Golden Age of Babylon. Cultural and economic prosperity. The reign of Hammurabi marked the beginning of Babylon's Golden Age, a period during which the empire flourished culturally, economically, and politically. Babylon, once a modest city-state, transformed into one of the most magnificent and influential cities of the ancient world. This era saw the construction of monumental architecture, groundbreaking advancements in science and technology, and a thriving artistic and literary culture that would leave a lasting impact on future civilizations. Each of these achievements contributed to the unparalleled prosperity of Babylon and solidified its place in history as one of the greatest civilizations of the ancient Near East. Architectural achievements. One of the most impressive aspects of Babylon's Golden Age was its monumental architecture. The city's grand structures and innovative building techniques became a symbol of its wealth, power, and cultural sophistication. The most famous architectural achievements of this period include the Ishtar Gate, the ziggurats, and the royal palaces, each of which demonstrated Babylon's technical mastery and artistic brilliance. The Ishtar Gate is perhaps the most iconic structure from Babylon's Golden Age. This grand gateway, originally constructed by King Nebuchadnezzar II in the 6th century BCE, was one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. The gate was adorned with vibrant blue glazed tiles, depicting images of dragons, the sacred animal of the god Marduk, and bulls. These animals were arranged in intricate patterns, creating a striking visual effect that showcased Babylonian artistry. The Ishtar Gate, which was part of the larger processional way that led to the city's central temple, served both as a grand entrance and as a statement of power and divine protection. Its monumental scale and breathtaking beauty made it one of the most recognizable landmarks of the ancient world. The ziggurats, towering stepped pyramids built in honor of Babylon's gods, were another architectural marvel of the era. These structures were not only places of worship but also symbols of the city's religious devotion and its connection to the heavens. The most famous ziggurat in Babylon was the Etemenenki, dedicated to the god Marduk, the patron deity of the city. The Etemenenki ziggurat, which stood over 300 feet tall, was a center of religious activity and possibly inspired the biblical story of the Tower of Babel. The ziggurats were constructed with layers of brick and clay, with each level representing a closer proximity to the gods, symbolizing the connection between the earthly and the divine. Babylon's royal palaces were also notable examples of the city's architectural grandeur. The most famous of these was the Palace of Nebuchadnezzar II, a sprawling complex of courtyards, gardens, and lavish halls. This palace was adorned with intricate carvings and beautiful murals that depicted the king's military victories, religious rituals, and the life of the royal court. The palaces were designed not only as luxurious residences but as symbols of the king's divine right to rule, serving both political and religious purposes. Nebuchadnezzar's building projects in Babylon transformed the city into one of the most awe-inspiring urban centers of the ancient world. These architectural achievements were not just expressions of power and devotion but also reflected Babylon's advanced engineering and construction techniques. The Babylonians perfected the use of fired bricks, a durable material that allowed them to create impressive, long-lasting structures. The sheer scale and intricacy of these buildings demonstrated the wealth and technical capabilities of the empire, while their artistic decoration showcased the cultural sophistication of the Babylonians. The Hittite king, Mursalai I, led a highly effective military campaign into Babylon. After a series of battles, the Hittites were able to breach Babylon's defenses and sack the city, leading to the overthrow of the ruling Kassite dynasty, which had governed Babylon for several centuries. The Hittites looted the city, causing significant destruction and weakening Babylon's political and economic power. They plundered its temples, shrines, and palaces, taking wealth and treasures back to Hutti, the Hittite capital. Though Mursalai I's forces did not occupy Babylon permanently, the invasion left an indelible mark on the city, triggering a prolonged period of instability and decline. The Kassites, who had ruled Babylon since approximately 1760 BCE, had been relatively stable rulers. Under their reign, Babylon had prospered, and the kingdom had seen a relatively peaceful period. However, the Hittite invasion shattered this stability. With the fall of the Kassite dynasty, Babylon entered a period of political chaos. It would not regain its former strength and influence until nearly 3 centuries later, when the city saw a brief revival under the Neo-Babylonian Empire. Revival and the New Babylonian Dynasty. After the Hittite invasion, Babylon went through periods of decline and vulnerability. The power of the city ebbed and flowed over the centuries, with various foreign powers exerting influence over the region. One of the most significant challenges during this time came from the Assyrian Empire, which became increasingly dominant in the ancient Near East. Despite these challenges, Babylon managed to regain some measure of power in the 7th century BCE with the rise of the Neo-Babylonian Empire, a new dynasty that brought Babylon back to prominence. The Neo-Babylonian Empire's most famous ruler, Nebuchadnezzar II, is perhaps the most well-known figure from this period. Nebuchadnezzar II ascended to the throne in 605 BCE, after the death of his father, Nabopolassar, who had successfully led the rebellion against the Assyrian Empire, signaling the beginning of the Neo-Babylonian dynasty. Under Nebuchadnezzar II, Babylon regained much of its former glory. The king expanded the empire through military conquest, notably capturing Jerusalem and exiling the Jewish population to Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar's rule is best known for his vast building projects, including the construction of the Ishtar Gate, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, and extensive improvements to Babylon's city infrastructure. These accomplishments helped solidify his legacy as one of the greatest kings of Babylon. However, Despite these brief moments of resurgence under the Neo-Babylonian Empire, the overall power of Babylon remained fragile. Nebuchadnezzar's successors, including Evil Merodach and Neriglissar, faced internal unrest, economic difficulties, and military threats from rival empires like Persia and Assyria. The instability that followed Nebuchadnezzar's reign laid the groundwork for the empire's eventual collapse. Conflict with Assyria, the constant power struggle. Throughout its history, Babylon and Assyria were locked in a constant power struggle, vying for dominance in the ancient Near East. The Assyrian Empire, known for its military might and aggressive tactics, was one of Babylon's most formidable enemies. The conflict between these two civilizations was not just political, it also had cultural and religious dimensions, as both empires sought to claim the legacy of the ancient Sumerians and Akkadians. The relationship between Babylon and Assyria was a complicated one. At times, the two empires coexisted relatively peacefully, while at other times, they engaged in fierce military campaigns and territorial disputes. During the height of the Assyrian Empire, Babylon was often caught in the crossfire of Assyrian military expansion. At times, the Assyrians outright conquered Babylon, while at other times, Babylon was forced to pay tribute to Assyria. One of the most notable episodes of conflict between Babylon and Assyria occurred during the reign of Tiglath-Pileser III, reigned 745 to 727 BCE, one of Assyria's most powerful kings. Under Tiglath-Pileser III, Assyria began an aggressive campaign of territorial expansion, including multiple invasions into Babylonian territory. While the Babylonians had some periods of self-rule, their autonomy was often curtailed by Assyrian dominance. In the 8th century BCE, Babylon's vulnerability to Assyrian aggression reached its peak. The Assyrian king Sennacherib, reigned 705 to 681 BC, famously destroyed the ancient city of Babylon in 689 BCE as part of his military campaign against rebellious Babylonian rulers. Sennacherib's assault on Babylon was one of the most destructive invasions in the city's history. The Assyrians laid siege to the city, breached its walls, and looted its treasures. Sennacherib even went as far as to deface the city's temples and statues, erasing many aspects of Babylonian culture and religious traditions. This destruction further crippled Babylon's political and economic standing. However, the Assyrian Empire's dominance over Babylon would not last forever. While Assyria had the upper hand for much of the 8th century BCE, the rise of the Neo-Babylonian Empire in the 7th century BCE began to shift the balance of power. After the collapse of the Assyrian Empire in the 7th century BCE, Babylon briefly enjoyed a period of prosperity and autonomy under Nebuchadnezzar II. This shift was primarily due to internal strife within the Assyrian Empire and the subsequent weakening of Assyria's hold on the region. However, Babylon's resurgence was short-lived, and its newfound power would be challenged once again by the rise of new threats from the east, particularly from the Persian Empire. The Neo-Babylonian Empire, the rise of Nebuchadnezzar II. The 6th century BCE marked the zenith of Babylonian civilization, thanks largely to the reign of Nebuchadnezzar II, one of the most renowned rulers in ancient history. His reign was a time of military conquests, monumental construction projects, and cultural renaissance. Nebuchadnezzar's leadership propelled Babylon to its peak, transforming the city into one of the most magnificent and powerful empires of the ancient world. From military triumphs to architectural marvels, Nebuchadnezzar II's impact on Babylon and the broader ancient world was profound. However, his success was not only built on military power but also on his brilliant use of religion and culture as tools for solidifying his rule. Nebuchadnezzar II's ascension, the king who led Babylon to glory. Nebuchadnezzar II, the son of Nabopolassar, the founder of the Neo-Babylonian Empire, ascended the throne in 605 BC after his father's death. At the time, the Neo-Babylonian Empire was a rising power, having recently wrested control of Babylon from the weakening Assyrian Empire. Nebuchadnezzar inherited an empire in transition, a civilization on the cusp of greatness but still in need of consolidation and further expansion. Nebuchadnezzar's early reign was marked by a series of military campaigns that not only consolidated Babylon's dominance over Mesopotamia but also extended its borders. He quickly proved himself a skilled strategist and warrior. One of his first major military actions was the Battle of Carchemish in 605 BCE, a decisive confrontation against the Egyptian army and their allies. With a resounding victory over Egypt, Nebuchadnezzar effectively eliminated Egypt's influence in the region and solidified Babylon's status as the dominant power in the ancient Near East. This battle marked the beginning of a series of successful military campaigns that would define Nebuchadnezzar's reign. Nebuchadnezzar's strategic military maneuvers allowed him to exert control over a vast area, stretching from Persia to Syria and even to Judah in the southwest. His campaigns not only expanded the borders of Babylon but also brought the city great wealth. As he plundered treasures from the nations he conquered and made strategic use of those resources to fuel further development. However, Nebuchadnezzar's military victories were not the only factor that secured his place in history. His reign was also marked by unparalleled construction projects that would transform Babylon into a center of culture, learning, and architectural grandeur. Military victories and construction projects. Conquest of Jerusalem and the Hanging Gardens. One of the most significant events of Nebuchadnezzar II's reign was his conquest of Jerusalem and the subsequent Babylonian exile of the Jewish people. In 597 BC, Nebuchadnezzar besieged Jerusalem, defeating the forces of King Jehoiakim. The city was captured, and many of the leading citizens, including the royal family, were taken into captivity in Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar's forces returned to Jerusalem in 586 BCE, following a rebellion, and completely destroyed the city, including its famed First Temple. This marked the beginning of the Babylonian exile, during which the Jewish people were forcibly relocated to Babylon, where they remained until the conquest of Babylon by the Persians in 539 BC. Nebuchadnezzar's conquest of Jerusalem and the exile of the Jewish population became a defining moment in the history of the Jewish people, as it shaped their identity and religious beliefs. For Nebuchadnezzar, however, the conquest of Jerusalem served to demonstrate his military prowess and his authority over the region. Beyond his military triumphs, Nebuchadnezzar is perhaps best known for his extensive construction projects, which transformed Babylon into one of the most magnificent cities of the ancient world. Nebuchadnezzar II undertook a massive program of urban development, expanding the city's infrastructure and constructing monumental buildings. One of the most iconic of these was the Ishtar Gate, which was built as a grand entrance to the city. The gate, adorned with magnificent images of animals like dragons and bulls, symbolized Babylon's power and wealth. It was later excavated and reconstructed in the Pergamon Museum in Berlin, where it remains a symbol of Babylonian grandeur. Nebuchadnezzar's crowning achievement, however, was the construction of the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Though their existence is still debated, ancient texts describe the gardens as a vast terrace structure that showcased incredible feats of engineering, complete with lush greenery, plants, and water features. The gardens were allegedly built for Nebuchadnezzar's wife, Amytas of Media, who missed the green hills of her homeland. If the gardens truly existed, they would have represented not only a technological marvel but also a symbol of Nebuchadnezzar's power and his desire to create a paradise for his queen. Another key aspect of Nebuchadnezzar's construction projects was the renovation of Babylon's infrastructure. He reinforced the city's ziggurats, the massive step temples that were a hallmark of Mesopotamian architecture. The most famous of these was the Etemenanke ziggurat, which is often thought to have inspired the biblical story of the Tower of Babel. The ziggurat was a towering structure dedicated to the god Marduk, and Nebuchadnezzar's renovations helped solidify Babylon's status as the religious center of the ancient world. The peak of Babylonian civilization, a magnificent city. Under Nebuchadnezzar II's rule, Babylon reached the height of its glory and influence. The city became a hub of culture, commerce, and politics. With its towering walls, massive gates, and impressive ziggurats, Babylon was seen as one of the most beautiful cities in the ancient world. The city's Ishtar Gate and processional way, which was lined with sculptures of lions, dragons, and bulls, left a lasting legacy as symbols of Babylon's grandeur. The economy of Babylon flourished during Nebuchadnezzar's reign, bolstered by trade, agriculture, and the spoils of war. Nebuchadnezzar's conquests opened up lucrative trade routes, connecting Babylon to far-flung regions such as Egypt, Persia, and India. The empire's strategic location between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers made it an ideal center for agriculture, as the fertile land allowed the cultivation of crops like barley, wheat, and dates. The wealth generated from trade and agriculture helped fund the king's ambitious building projects, ensuring that Babylon remained a symbol of power and prosperity. At the same time, the city became a center for the arts, literature, and science. Babylon's reputation as a place of learning and intellectual achievement grew during Nebuchadnezzar's reign. The Babylonians were already renowned for their contributions to astronomy, mathematics, and medicine, and under Nebuchadnezzar, these fields continued to thrive. The Babylonians' advanced understanding of the heavens, particularly their ability to predict celestial events, helped shape the development of astronomy in the ancient world. Religion and culture, intertwining power and faith. One of Nebuchadnezzar II's most successful strategies for consolidating his rule was his use of religion. Nebuchadnezzar was a devout follower of Marduk, the patron god of Babylon, and he made significant efforts to promote Marduk's worship throughout his empire. He saw himself as the chosen servant of Marduk, charged with the responsibility of maintaining the cosmic order. Nebuchadnezzar used religious symbols and rituals to legitimize his rule and unite his people under the banner of Babylonian spirituality. Nebuchadnezzar's construction of grand temples and ziggurats dedicated to Marduk was not just an act of religious devotion, it was also a powerful political tool. By building impressive structures and revitalizing the religious infrastructure, Nebuchadnezzar reinforced his image as the divine ruler of Babylon. He used religious ceremonies and offerings to demonstrate his piety and strengthen his authority. The king's relationship with the divine was central to the political order of the time, and his portrayal as the chosen representative of the gods allowed him to unite his diverse subjects under a common belief system. Moreover, Nebuchadnezzar's patronage of the arts and sciences also had a religious dimension. By funding projects related to astronomy, medicine, and mathematics, Nebuchadnezzar was not only promoting Babylonian culture but also demonstrating the divine favor of Marduk. Religion and politics were inseparable in ancient Mesopotamia, and Nebuchadnezzar's ability to fuse the two helped solidify his power and authority over his vast empire. The fall of Babylon, the Persian conquest. The fall of Babylon in 539 BCE marked the end of one of the ancient world's most powerful empires, bringing with it significant changes not only for Mesopotamia but also for the broader ancient world. The collapse of Babylon came at the hands of the Persian Empire under the leadership of Cyrus the Great, a conqueror whose military genius and diplomatic strategies would change the course of history. As the once great Babylonian Empire succumbed to external invasion, several internal and external factors played a crucial role in hastening its downfall. The Persian Empire's expansion. Rise of Cyrus the Great. The rise of the Persian Empire under Cyrus the Great is one of the most remarkable stories in ancient history. Before Cyrus, Persia, modern-day Iran, was just a minor kingdom within the broader region of Anatolia and Mesopotamia, often overshadowed by powerful empires like the Assyrians and Babylonians. However, under Cyrus's leadership, Persia transformed into a military powerhouse, expanding rapidly and conquering vast territories. Cyrus's expansion began with his victory over the Median Empire around 550 BCE, an event that united the Persian and Median peoples under his rule. From there, Cyrus turned his attention southward and eastward, conquering Lydia in 546 BCE and pushing into the vast territories of Central Asia. His most significant conquest, however, was the downfall of Babylon itself in 539 BCE, which marked the final stage of his empire's consolidation. Cyrus was a master of strategy, both on the battlefield and in diplomacy. Unlike many conquerors of the time, he didn't seek to destroy the cities he conquered. Instead, he often employed a policy of respect for local customs and religious practices. This approach earned him the loyalty and support of the peoples he conquered. In the case of Babylon, Cyrus's conquest was not just a military campaign, it was a carefully orchestrated plan that involved political manipulation, military prowess, and religious diplomacy. The timing of Cyrus's invasion was critical. Babylon, though still a powerful empire, was weakening under internal strife. The political instability that had taken root in Babylon in the decades prior to the Persian invasion created an opening for Cyrus to strike and ultimately bring down the Babylonian Empire. Causes of Babylon's fall: internal instability and Persian military might. The fall of Babylon was not the result of a single event but a combination of internal factors, including political instability and external pressures, primarily from the Persian military. Internally, Babylon had been weakened by political infighting and leadership struggles. After the reign of Nebuchadnezzar II, the Neo-Babylonian Empire had faced a period of decline. Successive rulers were either ineffective or embroiled in conflict. Nabonidus, the last king of Babylon, is a central figure in this story. He was a ruler who was deeply focused on religious reform, particularly in his worship of the moon god Sin, which alienated the priesthood of Marduk, Babylon's chief deity. His decision to spend much of his time in the Arabian desert, leaving the administration of Babylon in the hands of his son Belshazzar, further contributed to a sense of disarray. Belshazzar was seen as a weak leader, unable to secure loyalty from his subjects or lead the empire effectively. The discontent with Nabonidus's rule created an environment of internal strife, with several factions in Babylon questioning the legitimacy of the king's leadership. The Babylonian people were also burdened by the heavy taxes that were levied to finance Nabonidus's religious reforms and military campaigns. By the time of the Persian invasion, Babylon was divided internally, with its political, military, and religious institutions weakened and distracted. Externally, the Persian Empire, under Cyrus the Great, was a formidable force. Cyrus had already defeated several powerful neighbors, and his army was well-trained, disciplined, and equipped for battle. His forces were well prepared for the siege of Babylon, which was known for its impressive fortifications, including massive walls, gates, and an intricate network of canals and water systems. However, Babylon's walls, though imposing, were not impervious. Cyrus is believed to have employed a clever strategy to breach the city's defenses. According to ancient sources, such as the Greek historian Herodotus, Cyrus's forces diverted the Euphrates River, which flowed through Babylon, allowing his troops to enter the city through the riverbed while the gates were left unguarded. This ingenious tactic caught the Babylonians off guard, and without a strong defense, the city fell with relatively little resistance. Some sources suggest that the Babylonian elites, who were already disillusioned with Nabonidus's rule, may have even welcomed Cyrus as a liberator. While the Persian military might played a crucial role in the fall of Babylon, it is important to recognize that Babylon was not simply overpowered by a foreign invader. The Persian conquest was facilitated by the internal fragility of Babylon itself. Political instability, poor leadership, and social unrest left the empire vulnerable to external forces, and Cyrus's military genius capitalized on this weakness. Impact of the Persian conquest. What Babylon's fall meant for the region and the broader ancient world. The fall of Babylon was a momentous event with far-reaching consequences for the ancient Near East. Babylon, once the cultural, political, and economic center of the region, was now under the control of the Persians. This marked the end of the Neo-Babylonian Empire and the beginning of a new era under the rule of the Persian Empire. For the people of Babylon, the conquest of their city by Cyrus was not necessarily a disaster. In fact, the Persian king's policy of tolerance and respect for local customs allowed many Babylonians to continue their lives relatively unaffected by the change in leadership. Cyrus famously presented himself as a liberator, as shown by his Cyrus cylinder, an ancient artifact that outlines his policy of restoring religious freedom and repatriating displaced peoples. For the Jews, this was particularly significant, as it marked the end of the Babylonian exile and allowed many Jews to return to Jerusalem and rebuild their temple. However, the fall of Babylon also had broader implications for the ancient world. Under Persian rule, Babylon lost much of its political and economic influence. The city, once a beacon of cultural and intellectual achievement, began to decline as the Persians shifted the center of their empire to Persepolis and Susa. While Babylon remained an important city in the Persian Empire for some time, it no longer held the same prominence it had enjoyed during its golden age. Culturally, the Persian conquest ushered in a new era of Persian dominance over Mesopotamia. The Persian Empire, under Cyrus the Great and his successors, extended its reach from Egypt to India, creating one of the largest empires the world had ever seen. Persian culture, art, and religion began to influence the regions formerly under Babylonian control. Zoroastrianism, the state religion of Persia, replaced the Babylonian pantheon of gods, and Persian administrative practices spread throughout the empire. From a geopolitical perspective, the fall of Babylon marked the end of an era of regional power struggles. The collapse of the Babylonian Empire also meant the end of the centuries-old rivalry between Babylon and the Assyrian Empire, which had already been defeated by the Babylonians decades earlier. Persia's rise to power signified the dawn of a new empire in the region, one that would go on to dominate much of the ancient world for the next 2 centuries. The fall of Babylon was also a turning point in the broader history of the Middle East. It marked the transition from the ancient Mesopotamian kingdoms to the era of vast empires. The Persian Empire would go on to have a lasting impact on the region, influencing everything from politics and military strategy to art and architecture. In summary, the fall of Babylon to Cyrus the Great in 539 BCE was not just a military victory for Persia but also the culmination of several internal and external factors that had weakened the Babylonian Empire. Babylon's internal political strife, coupled with the might of the Persian military and Cyrus's diplomatic skill, made the city vulnerable to conquest. The Persian takeover of Babylon had significant consequences, reshaping the region's political and cultural landscape for centuries to come. While Babylon's decline marked the end of an empire, it also heralded the rise of Persia, a new power that would dominate the ancient world for generations. The legacy of Babylon. The legacy of Babylon is vast, echoing through history and continuing to influence modern culture, science, law, and literature. Though the great city itself has long since fallen, its impact on the ancient world and beyond has been profound. Babylon's contributions have shaped the development of many civilizations, particularly those of the Greeks, Romans, and later Western culture. Its advances in science, art, literature, and law left a lasting imprint on the world. Additionally, the archaeological discoveries of Babylon's remnants offer valuable insights into the ancient city's grandeur, while its symbolism continues to appear in popular culture, representing everything from mystery and decadence to divine retribution. Influence on later civilizations. The Babylonian Empire may have fallen over 2 millennia ago, but its influence reverberates throughout history, especially in the fields of law, science, and culture. Its legal system, contributions to astronomy, and literary heritage were integral in shaping the development of ancient Greece, Rome, and even modern Western thought. The Babylonian legal system. The Babylonian Empire's legal innovations, most famously represented by the Code of Hammurabi, had a lasting impact on the legal systems of later civilizations. The Code was one of the first written legal systems in history and laid the groundwork for future legal practices. Its principles of justice, proportional punishment, and written laws would influence the Greeks and Romans, particularly in their development of legal codes and court systems. The Roman 12 tables, for example, bear some resemblance to the Code of Hammurabi in terms of their intent to establish public justice and order. Even modern legal systems owe much to the legacy of Babylon's written laws, particularly the concept of codified law that ensures fairness and accountability. Astronomy and mathematics. Babylonian advancements in astronomy and mathematics had an enduring impact on future civilizations. The Babylonians were pioneers in the study of the stars and the heavens, and their sexagesimal, base 60, system influenced modern timekeeping and the division of the circle into 360 degrees. Greek astronomers, such as Hipparchus and Ptolemy, adopted Babylonian methods of planetary observation and astronomical charts. The Babylonian star catalogs and their mathematical models provided the foundation for later Greek and Roman astronomy. Similarly, the Babylonians' understanding of geometry and mathematical calculation was passed down and refined by the Greeks, and their legacy endures in the way we measure time and space today. Literature and philosophy. Babylon's literary heritage also influenced later civilizations, particularly the Greeks. The Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the earliest surviving works of literature, not only shaped ancient Mesopotamian storytelling but also had a profound effect on later Greek literature, especially the Homeric epics like the Iliad and the Odyssey. The themes of heroism, friendship, and mortality found in the Epic of Gilgamesh are echoed in later works of literature, forming the basis of many universal themes in storytelling. In terms of philosophy, Babylonian scholars laid the groundwork for later philosophical inquiry by blending religion, ethics, and reason, which would later be expanded upon by Greek philosophers such as Plato and Aristotle. Religion and mythology. Babylonian mythology influenced both the Greeks and the Romans. The Babylonians' pantheon of gods, led by Marduk, had parallels with the later Roman gods and goddesses, such as Jupiter, Venus, and Mars. Even the Greeks, with their rich mythology, had similarities to Babylonian myths, particularly the creation myths and the stories of gods waging wars against one another. Judaism and Christianity were also shaped by Babylonian thought, particularly in relation to the concepts of divine justice, the afterlife, and the nature of God. Thus, Babylon's scientific and cultural achievements were far-reaching, influencing the Greeks, Romans, and even modern civilizations in ways that continue to affect our thinking today. Archaeological discoveries. Unveiling Babylon's grandeur. Babylon's legacy is the wealth of archaeological discoveries that continue to illuminate our understanding of the city's historical importance. The ruins of Babylon lie in modern-day Iraq, near the city of Hilla, and excavations there have uncovered spectacular artifacts that offer invaluable insight into Babylonian life, culture, and achievements. The Ishtar Gate. Perhaps the most iconic discovery from Babylon is the Ishtar Gate, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. This stunning structure was originally built by Nebuchadnezzar II around 575 BCE as the entrance to the inner city of Babylon. The gate, adorned with blue glazed tiles and depicting animals like lions and dragons, was a masterpiece of ancient architecture. The Ishtar Gate was partially reconstructed and is now displayed in the Pergamon Museum in Berlin, giving modern audiences a glimpse into Babylon's architectural and artistic brilliance. The Babylonian Stele. Another important artifact is the Babylonian Stele, a stone monument that records historical events, legal decrees, and religious proclamations. These steles offer insight into the reign of Nebuchadnezzar II and his efforts to promote his rule through monumental inscriptions and declarations. The Code of Hammurabi, one of the earliest legal documents, is another famous Babylonian stele that continues to be a subject of study for scholars of ancient law and society. The Processional Way. Another key discovery is the Processional Way, a grand ceremonial road that led from the Ishtar Gate to the Temple of Marduk. This route was used for religious processions and important state events. Archaeologists have uncovered remnants of the road, which were once adorned with rows of massive lion statues and other impressive features. The Processional Way demonstrates the Babylonian commitment to both religious and civic architecture, reflecting the significance of ritual and politics in Babylonian society. These and many other archaeological finds provide crucial evidence of the Babylonian Empire's cultural, political, and artistic achievements. They allow us to visualize the grandeur of Babylon and to appreciate its contributions to world history. Symbolism in popular culture. Babylon's enduring mystique. Babylon's symbolism has transcended its historical existence, finding a prominent place in art, literature, and modern culture. From ancient times to the present day, Babylon has been a symbol of grandeur, decadence, and divine retribution. Biblical references. Perhaps the most enduring image of Babylon in Western culture comes from the Bible, where the city is often depicted as a symbol of human pride and sin. In the book of Daniel, Babylon is portrayed as a powerful empire that falls due to its arrogance and failure to acknowledge divine authority. The famous story of the writing on the wall, a mysterious inscription predicting the fall of the Babylonian Empire, is a dramatic portrayal of Babylon's ultimate downfall. The Bible also uses Babylon as a symbol of moral decay in the book of Revelation, where it represents the forces of evil and is referred to as Babylon the Great, the mother of prostitutes and abominations of the earth. Art and literature. In art and literature, Babylon has often been depicted as a city of wonder and mystery. Its monumental architecture, vast riches, and luxurious lifestyle have made it a favorite subject for painters, poets, and writers. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon, one of the seven wonders, continue to inspire awe and fascination. Writers from ancient times to the Renaissance have used Babylon as a metaphor for hubris, ambition, and the rise and fall of civilizations. Modern depictions. In modern pop culture, Babylon continues to serve as a potent symbol. The city is often depicted in movies, books, and television shows as a symbol of opulence and decadence, as well as the dangers of unchecked power. In the 20th century, Babylon was used as a metaphor for the dangers of totalitarian regimes, corrupt governments, and the pursuit of unchecked material wealth. Its symbolism has been employed by artists, filmmakers, and writers to critique the excesses of modern society. From its biblical portrayal to its depiction in modern movies and novels, Babylon continues to be a symbol of both greatness and destruction. It serves as a reminder of the fragile nature of human achievement and the inevitable decline of even the most powerful empires. Babylon's legacy is one of profound cultural, intellectual, and artistic contributions that shaped the course of ancient and modern history. Its legal systems, scientific advancements, and cultural achievements laid the foundation for future civilizations, particularly those of Greece, Rome, and the Western world. The archaeological discoveries unearthed from the ruins of Babylon continue to provide a window into this fascinating civilization, revealing its grandeur and complexity. Meanwhile, the symbolism of Babylon, whether as a mighty empire, a symbol of divine justice, or a cautionary tale, remains a powerful force in art, literature, and popular culture. Babylon's enduring legacy serves as both a reminder of the heights that civilizations can reach and the inevitable decline that often follows. What we can learn from Babylon's rise and fall. The story of Babylon is one of immense grandeur, but also of inevitable decline. Its rise and fall offer us a valuable reflection on the cyclical nature of history, the fragility of even the greatest civilizations, and the lessons that modern society can learn from its trajectory. The Empire of Babylon, once the epitome of power, culture, and achievement, ultimately succumbed to a combination of internal weakness, external pressures, and the passage of time. But despite its fall, Babylon's legacy endures in profound and lasting ways, influencing the development of legal systems, scientific thought, and cultural traditions that continue to shape our world today. Lessons on the nature of empires. The rise and fall of Babylon teaches us crucial lessons about the nature of empires. At its peak, Babylon was a flourishing and powerful empire built on military conquest, diplomatic alliances, cultural achievements, and economic prosperity. Yet, despite its greatness, Babylon could not escape the forces that have historically led to the downfall of empires: internal corruption, political instability, and external invasions. The empire's eventual decline was not inevitable, but rather the result of a combination of factors that weakened it from within, while external forces, such as the Persians, played a crucial role in its destruction. Cyclical nature of history. The story of Babylon reinforces a fundamental truth about the rise and fall of civilizations. Great empires often experience a cycle of growth, peak, and decline. The forces of power and wealth can lead to internal corruption, infighting, and instability, which erode the empire's ability to function effectively. External pressures, such as invasions, revolutions, or shifts in power dynamics, often act as the final catalyst for a civilization's collapse. Babylon's experience reminds us that no empire is immune to this cycle, no matter how powerful or prosperous it may seem in the moment. The fragility of power. The fall of Babylon also highlights the fragility of power. At its zenith, the Babylonian Empire was unrivaled in its military prowess, wealth, and cultural achievements. Yet, in the end, it could not withstand the pressure of internal strife and external conquest. This fragility is a reminder to modern societies that power, whether political, military, or economic, is inherently unstable and requires constant care, vigilance, and balance to be maintained. The lessons from Babylon's downfall teach us that all forms of power are susceptible to decay if they are not managed responsibly. Hubris and the limits of ambition. Another key lesson from Babylon's rise and fall is the danger of hubris, or excessive pride, often associated with powerful civilizations. Babylon, like many empires before and after it, became overconfident in its strength and assumed its power was unassailable. This sense of invincibility can lead to complacency and arrogance, causing empires to ignore the warning signs of impending decline. It is important for societies, both ancient and modern, to recognize the limits of their power and to remain humble in the face of their achievements. As seen in Babylon's story, no empire is invulnerable, and every empire has an expiration date unless it adapts to changing circumstances. The importance of adaptation and reform. Babylon's fall also underscores the importance of adaptation and reform in sustaining the longevity of a civilization. The Babylonians were remarkable innovators in law, science, and art, yet they failed to adapt to the changing political and military landscape of the ancient world. Internal reforms, such as improving governance, strengthening the economy, and managing political infighting, might have helped stave off their eventual downfall. In the modern era, societies must be willing to evolve and adapt to changing political, economic, and social conditions in order to avoid the fate of Babylon. Final thoughts on Babylon's influence. While the Babylonian Empire no longer exists, its legacy continues to resonate today in profound and enduring ways. Babylon's contributions to law, science, and culture remain foundational to much of the modern world, and the echoes of its once mighty civilization can still be felt through the laws we follow, the scientific advancements we build upon, and the art and literature we continue to create. Babylon's enduring influence on legal systems. One of the most significant aspects of Babylon's legacy is its legal code, especially the Code of Hammurabi. This code not only influenced ancient civilizations like Greece and Rome but also provided the framework for modern legal systems. The principles of justice, equality before the law, and proportional punishment found in Babylon's legal system laid the groundwork for our current conceptions of law and justice. The concept of written laws, making laws publicly accessible to all, was one of Babylon's greatest contributions to civilization. Even today, many of the basic concepts found in Hammurabi's code, such as the importance of legal transparency and fairness, are pillars of modern judicial systems. Scientific and mathematical legacy. Babylon's pioneering work in astronomy, mathematics, and medicine has had a lasting impact on the development of science. Their creation of the sexagesimal system, the base 60 system, continues to influence the way we measure time and angles today. Babylonian astronomers laid the foundations for Greek and Roman astronomy, and their study of celestial movements formed the basis for the study of astrology and astronomy in the ancient world. These discoveries were passed down through the ages and directly influenced the development of modern science and technology. The Babylonians were also among the first to record medical texts, which would influence later advancements in medicine in both the Greco-Roman and Islamic worlds. Cultural and literary legacy. Babylon's art, architecture, and literature continue to inspire and shape cultures around the world. The Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the earliest known works of literature, has influenced not only later Mesopotamian literature but also the epic traditions of Greece and Rome. The tale's themes of friendship, mortality, and the quest for immortality resonate deeply with modern readers. Additionally, the iconic Ishtar Gate, the Hanging Gardens, and other architectural wonders of Babylon continue to serve as symbols of artistic excellence and human ambition, influencing architects and artists today. Babylon in popular culture. The story of Babylon, with its rise, glory, and eventual fall, has also found a place in popular culture, where it often serves as a metaphor for the hubris and decay of great civilizations. From biblical references to depictions in movies, books, and art, Babylon has become synonymous with the themes of imperial ambition, decadence, and the inevitability of downfall. Whether in historical fiction, religious texts, or modern depictions, Babylon's story remains a potent symbol of both human greatness and its potential for destruction. What modern society can learn from Babylon's journey? The rise and fall of Babylon offers us invaluable lessons about the complexities of empire, the limitations of human ambition, and the importance of cultural and scientific achievements. As modern societies continue to grow and face challenges, the story of Babylon can serve as both a cautionary tale and a source of inspiration. By reflecting on Babylon's successes and failures, we can better understand the nature of power, the fragility of empires, and the importance of balance, adaptation, and humility. Babylon's influence, whether through its laws, scientific discoveries, or artistic achievements, remains a cornerstone of world history, and its legacy continues to shape the modern world in profound and lasting ways.